Kyle requested as much white as possible for this build, so with that in mind, we went with an Asus Prime Z390A full RTX motherboard. In order for us to meet the budget Kyle had, we put a 9th gen i5 9600K in so we had more funds to invest into the GPU. We had G-Skill Ripjaws V white RAM spec'd for this build, however, Kyle went to Micro Center for the first time and could not resist the temptation of getting RAM. That being said, keeping in the theme of having as much white as possible, he purchased some white DDR4 Corsair Vengeance RAM running at 3000 MHz. When discussing the design of this build, Kyle knew many of our friends moved to liquid cooling, so he took the plunge himself and put in a Corsair H60 all-in-one that conveniently glows white for his build. We did swap out the stock fan on the radiator for a white LED Corsair AF120 high static pressure fan. When it came to case fans, for me, there is nothing better than the Cougar CFD series fans. So we ended up putting in 5 140mm fans with 3 up top and 2 on the front. We also added a 120mm fan on the bottom, so there is more air coming in, which would make the negative air pressure not be as bad. Since we went with the 9600K for the processor, this allowed Kyle to spend the extra money he had toward the GPU. He ended up getting an EVGA Black Edition RTX 2070. I had spec'd out a completely different case for this build, but as I said earlier with the RAM, when Kyle visited Micro Center, he picked up a Fantex Entho Pro TG case. Not knowing this until I got to Kyle's house to build the computer, this is actually the same case I have, which was really nice because I already had an idea of how I was going to run the wiring. Wiring in general still sucks, but it has to be done. As I do with all my builds, I like to do a test run to make sure everything works. This time I did not forget to plug a fan in for the turn-on test. Everything looked good, so I turned off the computer and finished the wiring, which only took another hour or so. We got the top and front cover back on and screwed in the back panel. We loaded up Windows 10 and got the motherboard RGB working with Asus Aura. And finally, we are done. Kyle is extremely happy with how it turned out, I'm happy with how it turned out, and everything runs flawlessly. I believe the very first thing Kyle did was turn on Battlefield 5, and he was able to play it on max settings. Thank you for watching. The parts list for this build is below in the description. There are a few more builds I am currently working on, so hit that subscribe button to check them out later on.